Hi students, we meet again. Okay, right. So this time around, we'll be doing some sharing session about for our SPM Trial 2021, and we have chosen the paper from Sarawak. Okay, right. I think we already done from Terengganu. We have also already done with, I don't remember which other state that we already did. So basically, we have already done two states, and this is our third state that we are going to do discussion about it, right? Okay, so without further ado, let me continue. Okay, so but before that, I would like to ask, how is everybody? I myself just recovering from a long 2 weeks of sickness. Okay. Right, and sorry for the long delay because I need to cover because I actually lost my voice. All right. Okay, now let's look at our Sarawak trial paper 2021, which is paper 1 first, yeah. Okay. I think I have to refresh back your minds about the format of paper 1. So I hope that everybody will not forget that in paper 1 we have 5 sections altogether, and for paper 1, 2, there are 40 questions that you need to answer. For the last 5 or 4 questions would be written by hand. So that's why we call paper 1 as the hybrid paper, meaning that when we answer for part 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 5, for another last 4, you have to write the answer on the answer sheets. Okay, all right. So 40 questions altogether. You don't have any room to make too much of a mistake, because each question gives you 1 mark each, right? Okay, now let's look at the first part, which is part 1. So like what I've mentioned earlier, in part 1, you are given the choices of 3 multiple choice questions. This is a normal hierarchy of how they start off with part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and part 5. Yeah. So you can see that the level of difficulty also increases from each part that you are doing, right? Okay. Like what I have mentioned earlier as well in my previous sharing session with you, you have to read the question first, and then refer to the text, read the text. If you are allowed to bring a highlighter, especially for your trials, especially bring a highlighter, then highlight certain context or certain words that you feel is the keyword to the answer, right? Okay, now for question number 1, this question requires students to write to find a true statement about Malacca. Okay, and if you read the text is mainly talking about the streets that we have in Malacca, how the streets have been changed their names according to history. Okay, and then sometimes due to the population of certain ethnics in Malacca, so the names of the streets have been changed because of that as well, right? Okay, now let's look at the text, yeah? So let me read the text for you so that you can have a better understanding of it. Now, one can understand why Malacca is called a historic city. So everyone knows. And some streets in Malacca seem to have hardly changed in the last few centuries. Strolling along Jalan Hang Jebat and Jalan Tan Cheng Lock, my friends and I could imagine how they would have appeared in ancient times when they were known as Jonker Street and Kieran Street. So these streets were almost totally occupied by the Baba families. So that's the reason why the names, when you walk past by the street, you know the reason why. And they could see that in the past and in the present, the streets are actually quite similar. Okay, let's look at the options of answer given. All right, so for A, the answer given was all the streets have hardly changed over the years. Have hardly changed. if we look at the second line in the text, it does mention here some streets in Malacca seem to have hardly changed in the last few centuries. Okay, but the word here used in the sentence is centuries, but in the answer you're given years. Is it the same? It's not the same. Years, centuries, it could be different. But it's okay, we keep it as an option of answer first, yeah? Alright, B, some of the streets have changed from how they were. Okay, let's look. Strolling along Jalan Hanjabat and Jalan Tan Cheng Lock, my friends, I could imagine how they would have appeared in ancient times when they were known as Jonker Street and Heron Street. Okay, and then C, the Babas totally occupied streets for the last few centuries, and then these streets were almost totally occupied by the Baba families. For the last few centuries, you're talking about here. This is actually talking about the present situation. And then these streets were almost totally occupied by Baba families. Meaning in the past, you're talking that this place is actually filled with the Baba families, the ethnic. Right. Now, what do you think would the answer be? You're talking about the true statement. All the streets have partly changed over the years. Some of the streets have changed in how they were, from how they were. The Babas all totally occupied the streets for the last few centuries. Okay, let's look at C. The Babas totally occupied the streets for the last 2 centuries. Can we still see Baba and Nyonya families here in Malacca still until now? Yeah, so definitely C is not the answer. So it's either A or B. Okay, because the answer is quite similar to one another. So I leave it to you. What do you think would the answer be? Okay. Alright, let's look at the second question. So what does they in the passage refer to? Every question that is being asked in the text, they will highlight certain words that they want you to concentrate on. Meaning that if the word they is being highlighted here, so find the highlighted word in the text as well. But that is the reason why they highlighted it and they italize it, so that students can straightaway find the answer. Okay. Now, if you look at the previous trial question that we have already discussed, you could see that sometimes in one question, in one text, there will be 2 questions about it. Sometimes one text will have only 1 question about it. Yet, the choices given to the students are only 3 multiple choice question. Okay? Right? I need to highlight this because sometimes they just ignore the highlighted words. So they uphold it. They just like they don't look for it. But if you see the word is already being bold, so go and refer back to the facts that you are reading. From there, you can get the answer. So what does A in the passage refer to? Definitely, it is referring to the 2 streets. It's already mentioned here, some streets. You're not talking about Baba families, because Baba families is only being mentioned at the last paragraph, and you're not talking about the writer's friend. It was not mentioned here at all. Okay. Friends here is only referred to when this particular writer with the friends are walking around where? At the streets. So they are actually talking about the streets in Malacca. Okay, right? Okay, let's continue. See what I mentioned earlier? Sometimes one question will have, or one text will have 2 questions, sometimes one text will have 1 question. Okay? Alright, so from the excerpt, what kind of person was Piriatai? Now, excerpt usually is being taken from a novel. Sometimes it can be taken from a document. It can be taken from a journal. Just took a little bit of the passage. Out of many passages, they will only take like 1 paragraph. That's what we call as excerpt. So for us, you have to remember that when you're talking about excerpt, this excerpt is talking about the personality of the person. Who is the person that is being mentioned? Piriatai. So here, if you read, Piriatai died when the curfew was lifted for good and the military had disappeared from the scene in 1985. Her fortunes reached pre-emergency prosperity, but the lump she had always had on her shoulder had grown the size of a clenched fist, meaning that she actually is having a problem at the moment. Her sons took her to the group hospital and later to the district hospital in Singapore. The doctor shook his head. Piriatai shrugged the diagnosis off and continued to place at the pawn shop. So if you were to read the Return by K.S. William, you would know what is actually this story is about. So here in the text, it is talking about the personality of the person, the personality of Kiriatai. Therefore, if the three choices given here, you could see that she refused to accept the doctor's diagnosis. What is it? The word that I'm trying to highlight here is the word shrug. Shrug the diagnosis of and continue her place at the pawn shop. Shrug could be what? It could be someone who is very, very, how do you say, very stubborn, couldn't care less, and don't bother about it. She wants to continue with what is her normal activities that she does every day. Because probably she likes working at her place at the moment, right? Okay. Then she was determined to live as she had always done. She was adamant on becoming rich and famous is where. And does it mention she wants to become famous? No. Alright. Determine what? Here, you could see that the answer is B. From the last paragraph, it's already mentioned, already given you the situation. Priyanka shrugged the diagnosis off and continued her place at the pawn shop. Continue her normal activities. That's what it means. Okay? Alright? Okay. For the fourth question is about Taman Nisaikan residents who is going to get together to clean up their neighborhood. This is about cleaning their residential area. So when we talk about residential area, they are talking about community projects, activities that they are going to do, what kind of activities that they are going to do. Here is given to you: grass cutting, vacant plots, and cleaning the trees. There are a few activities mentioned. Alright? So here you read the question: which of the following statements is true? Alright. Again, it is asking for a true statement. Right. So, and like what I have mentioned as well, part 1 will give you a very direct question. Direct question means directly the answer can be seen either in the first paragraph or in the last paragraph. So you have to be very careful when you read the content. Okay. Now, question 5. This is a newspaper excerpt. About 3 teenagers who are working through their school holidays to earn some extra pocket money. Right. So here it talks about a girl working with some supplier, how much money do they earn, how are they being paid, are they being paid daily, are they being paid monthly, and the plans of these 3 girls. 3 girls. What were they planning to do with the money once they have completed their part-time job. Okay. Here again, already given you the 3 choices. Okay. See, questions are quite easy. Asking for true statements, asking for not true statements. Alright, be careful, be careful with what you are reading. Alright, let's continue. Okay, now again for question number 6, it's asking students to give true statements. True statement. So this is again another newspaper excerpt about how an 11-year-old boy died in a fire trying to save a 6-year-old brother when the fire broke, gutted the whole longhouse here yesterday. Okay, so when you talk about Miri, you can see that there's a keyword there, longhouse. And then you're talking about how this boy particularly died when he was trying to save the brother. Okay, right? And then what actually happened. There's an interview a little bit with the mother, how did her son actually died in the fire and so forth. Okay, all right. Okay, question number 7. See again, the question number 7 is asking for students to give a true statement. But this is actually a conversation between Rohit and Mahesh. Right? So Rohit and Mahesh are actually discussing about this examination paper. Okay, the marks that he got, and they were discussing how how one person is unable to attempt all the questions given, whereas the other friend is doing quite well compared to the other. Okay, alright, so just read as normal as it is. There's nothing, it's not that difficult. It's not that difficult. Okay, question number 8. Question number 8 is giving you an explanation, giving you the definition between an idiom and a proverb. What is the difference between an idiom and a proverb? Again, the question is asking the students to give the true statement. Alright. Okay, this is part 2. So for part 2, which is the gap text, the level of difficulty has been increased. How you know it's been increased? It is actually now having 4 multiple choice answers. So, like what I said already before, for part 2, students are being tested their vocabulary and grammar. Okay, vocabulary and grammar. If you were to ask me, teacher, how many grammar questions will be there? How many vocabulary questions will be there? I can't give you an exact answer because question papers can vary from different states. So sometimes schools will also have some differences. So you basically have to a lot of practice, a variety of texts, gap text especially. Okay. Alright, now 0, for number 0 is already given the answer A. So this one is actually testing the students on their grammar. You can see that there is a conjunction. There's an article, the. Okay, here is a conjunction. Right. For number 9, it is talking about feelings, either or, neither nor, and it's got lower. So here you're talking about what a domestic cat can in between be a house cat, a farm cat, or a feral cat. Can either or. Either means it can either way. Neither, it is negative. Either is a positive statement, right? Okay, for number 10, this is actually a combination of grammar. You can see there's a lot, various, much, and any. There is a difference in the quantity of it. We're talking about the quantity. Number 11, you're talking about past tense. Past tense, you've got touched, waved, hissed, taken, irregular verb being used. And then number 12, you can see that this one is a vocabulary. You're talking about the word slapped, waved, beat, and tap. This is actually an action word. Okay. Alright. Then for number 13, again, this is a vocabulary. Tells you about the places. So if you're talking about the place where cats live, so you can see that there are choices there. Farms, satellites, shops, and silos. Where is it? Okay, then number 14, next, out, beside, around. This is conjunction, and this is a preposition. We're talking about the positioning. Number 15, 6, much, many, little. We are talking about quantity and quantifiers. Number 16, person, teenagers, people, alien. This is a vocabulary. Let's see on the vocabulary. Look at the context here. Number 16, for example, a house cat mainly indoor, but somewhat like to keep their cats outside. Who you're talking to? But some people, you cannot put some person, right? You're not talking about one, you're talking about more than one. Okay, number 17 here, this is testing the students on their vocabulary. We got the word wild, social, antisocial, and calm. Number 18, you can see that this is a past tense word. Alright, tapped, waved, clapped, rubbed. Look at the question. Look at the text. They like to scratch or wet, especially around the area of the head, but it also depends on the breed of the cat. Wet. They like to be wet other than scratched. Do they like to be tapped? Do they like to be waved? Do they like to be slapped? Or do they like to be rubbed? This is an action word, but all in a form of a past tense. Okay? Alright. Now let's look at part 3. Part 3 is your comprehension question. Now, part 3, the level of difficulty is a little bit higher. You can see that there's a difference there. because words are getting more being used, the number of words, the texts are longer. Here you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 paragraphs altogether from the first to the last paragraph. So you have to be very careful. This is something like taking from a journal, takes from excerpt of a, from books or magazines and so forth. Okay, right? But if you were to see the difference of this question compared to the previous ones, it is here directly tells you which paragraph to get the answer. I think the first set of questions that we discussed, it did not mention about the paragraphs where to get the answer. But in the second set that we discussed, it seems like from in almost every question they will tell you from which paragraph, which paragraph, which paragraph. So students, you have to see, highlight the word in paragraph 4, meaning that to get the answer for question number 19, students actually have to look in paragraph 2 here. The change in December 2017 when previous adoptive parents gave their 4 adopted children DNA test kits as Christmas gifts. Kirana 21 sent his saliva sample in for analysis. When his result came back, he was stunned to find one strong match labeled close family. His name was Vincent Dunn. So basically, this is about how the parents have given their children, their adoptive children, a sample kit or for the test kit for DNA. Also from here. So if you look at the question, does it relate to that? Yeah, we are talking about results. When he tested himself. Okay. Same goes with question number 20. Question number 20 also will tell you which paragraph to go. So refer back to the paragraphs, right? Same goes with question 21, refer to paragraph 5. Okay, so probably if there are 8 questions here, the first 3 or the first 4 questions will tell the students where to get the answer, which paragraph to go, and refer to. Alright, see, 4 questions. The first 4 questions is asking the students to look at certain paragraphs. Now, when you go into 23, the question has become a little bit more high thinking order, where students are given a situation to identify what will be the impact of Kieran's adoption to Sean. So meaning that from the first paragraph right up to the 7th paragraph, there must be a situation where an impact to the children is being shown clearly from any one of the paragraphs. Okay, question number 24. It goes back again, referring to paragraph 9, but this time around, you are given a phrase for you to refer to in order for you to get the answer. Right? So comprehension question can be vary. It can be it will not look the same from one another. It depends again on how we want to test students. Yeah. Okay. All right. So if you look at the last 2 questions, is asking about the student's feeling. Where to get the answer, mentioned here the last paragraph. So if you look back at the text, you can see that in the last paragraph it tells you the feeling of Kieran. How did he felt when he when he was talking about finding his long lost brother. And the last one, we are talking about the purpose of the writer writing this article. This is a summary of the whole text, meaning that there is no area for you not to read anything. Every paragraph are equally important and must be read from top to bottom. Okay? Because why? Some students, they like to skip. They just like to skip and they don't like to read accordingly. So when you don't read accordingly, there would be some problems later occur, especially when you want to answer the last question, because the last question really would be asking you to summarize from your understanding, reading from top to bottom, what would it be? Okay. All right. This is part 4. Okay? Part 4 again. Get text, but I think everyone knows by now, already know that, for part 4, the gap text is students have to find a suitable paragraph or a suitable sentence to be joined together with the blanks given. We got 27, 28, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Meaning that you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 empty blanks that you need to fill in with choices of answers given in the next page. 7 only, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there are 8 answers here, but you only have to fill 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 spaces, 6 empty spaces that suits to this. There will be an extra. So for this particular text, it is quite similar to if you are doing paper 4 for listening. That would be in part 3, where students have to listen to a text, and then the text is related to a certain phrases given as the answer. They will give the students 8 choices of answers, and students have to relate it to what the speaker is talking about in the listening text. Okay, all right. So this is a good exercise, especially because it is related to. It's quite similar to paper 4 for your listening paper. Okay, all right. And the last part. So the last part is the information transfer. So here for this information transfer question, this is about students' notes for online learning. This is basically about students' feelings. About online learning is already mentioned on top in the topic here. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 individuals of different age group. And there are 8 questions for you to answer. So if you look at the question here, they give you A, B, C, D, E, F. So these are the number of the names of the paragraphs. So we should look on the left-hand side here of the alphabets in order for you to answer question 33 right up to 36, which is related to virtual learning environment, which is related to I prefer hard copy rather than soft copy. You're talking about internet access, and you're talking about comfortability and less stress. Which paragraph is it talking about? Right? And for the last 4 questions, usually there will be a rubric mentioning whether students have to use the answer that should be written in this particular empty space should be one word answer. It should be one word answer. I think it is all the states are doing it, but they have another rubric mentioning that it's a one word answer. You cannot exceed more than 1. So if your answer is more than 1, even though between the 2 answers there is a correct one, yet we don't consider it as correct because you are not following the requirement. Okay, all right. So for question number 37, number 40, again we have to refer to this 8 individuals who are actually giving their feedbacks about online learning. Okay, all right. Okay. So students, I think that is about it for paper 1 from Sarawak. Right. Later I will continue with paper 2 from Sarawak as well, which is the writing paper. And I hope that if you have any problems, if you have any questions, you can probably there will be a column where you can send and ask questions to me if you have any doubts about it. Okay. So thank you again for sharing, for having this session with me again for this time around. We hope to see you soon. Goodbye. Take care, everybody. Bye.